Nice, thanks a lot. Thank you, Jeff. That was very nice. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the welcome. It was great. I'm sorry we don't have 88,000 here like the music merchants will, but we are really pleased you came to welcome us. It's really great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Great introduction. I really appreciate that. I wrote it, so I knew that was going to be good. It's great to be with all of you. Last night we had Amelia here, and she really gave us kind of the extreme playground, I think, for entrepreneurship, and gave it, I would say, from her perspective is what we got to hear. So this morning, as I come before you, one of you, I thought that what we really should do is talk from the academic side of things now. We heard from the practitioner side, and I thought a good way that we would kick off the academic conference is to look at some of the academic components. And so just so you know, my presentation this morning is really going to be about you, because that's really what this conference really is all about in the long run. And it's really going to be up to us, if we use the theme of the conference of advancing entrepreneurship. When Rebecca and Jeff approached me and talked to me about the conference and said, that's going to really be our theme, advancing entrepreneurship. So I decided that I would talk to you about advancing, as you see here, the theory, the process, and the practice of entrepreneurship. Because it seemed to me that that's really how we all impact the field in different ways. So I don't really have a speech, but I've got ideas. And those that know me know this is the way I talk. And I'm going to share a number of ideas with you in this presentation. And I hope at the end, because it is about you, each and every one of you will be able to take away something that will be meaningful, something that you will be able to take back to your schools and motivate yourself with. So that's really my goal today of what we're really all about. And I thought I'd explain that as we get rolling. For me, as Jeff mentioned, from Ball State University, where I started, to now Indiana University, where I am, it's been a 28-year, I call it, entrepreneurial journey. I started in this field, and I'm still in it. I didn't come in from the back door. I didn't come in from a different field. I came in because I want to be part of this field. And it's really been a great journey. And I wanted to share with you that in this 28-year journey, USASBE and I have had a phenomenal relationship. See, it was about 24 years ago. By the way, is Joan Gilman here? Joan, are you here? Joan, would you stand up? And I'll tell you why. I want Joan to stand up because what I'm about to tell you, the story, Joan knows very well, because this organization is here today because of Joan Gilman. The immense work she did is, I would say, the godmother of this organization. God bless you, Joan. And you remember 24 years ago when a little assistant professor came waddling into the board meeting asking if I could be part of this organization. And Alan Philly sat there and looked at me and said, well, what would you do? See, in those days we didn't have a big board. And I said, you guys need a newsletter? And he said, yeah. I said, I'll do a newsletter. And he said, all right, well, let us know at the next meeting what you got, or give us a call and stuff. So I go back to the campus, and your speaker on Sunday, Chris Lane, his mom, Judy Lane, was working at our university as an editor. And I worked with Judy and said, I got to do this newsletter. And I said, I got to think of something to call it. And I want to give credit. Judy said to me, how about, what's it all about? I said, it's about communicating with the members. She said, how about liaison? I said, great. So we did a little mock-up one page, and I came back to Al Philly and said, how's this look? And Al goes, good. How are you going to do it? We don't have a budget. And Joan remembers, I said, I'll do it. And Alan goes, you're the new newsletter editor. And that's how I got on. Now, I had to go back to the university to explain to my dean that we were now going to pay for a newsletter to be done. But I tried to show him the upside, that it was a national newsletter and we were going to do all this publicity. But that's how it all started, and really that became a great relationship with this organization. And those were the early days. Mark Weaver was up here last night and mentioned, I believe, Mark, you said we have 1,100 members in USASBE. I almost fell off my chair. Joan and I remember the days when we cracked 100. We thought it was exciting. And then, each time we hit the hundreds, we were getting excited. So it's just amazing what this has grown to. And I just want to share that with you, that for me, it's been a great love relationship with this organization to see where it's at. And for all of you, especially our younger faculty coming in, this is a great organization to be part of, to contribute to, and to learn from. And I assure you, if you do that, you will never regret it. For 28 years, I have never regretted the friendships I've made here, the things I've learned, the things I've gleaned and brought back, and helped mold me to be a great, I think, a greater entrepreneurial educator. So for all of you, I would wish that the same. As I mentioned, and Jeff was kind to mention Indiana University, I always do my little commercial. Every one of us likes to do that when we get the stage. At Indiana, just so you know, and there's a reason I'm going to show you some of this as part of the talk. We are in the Big Ten. If you haven't seen our campus in Bloomington, Indiana, we're built on 3,000 acres. As you can see how large we are, 410 buildings, 2,360 faculty, over 40,000 students just on the Bloomington campus. If we go to our 8 campuses statewide, we're over 101,000. So we've also been voted one of the 5 most beautiful campuses in the world, so it's a pretty remarkable place. Even more significantly for me, because of how entrepreneurship has really blossomed there, this is a university where across campus, 110 departments are ranked in the top 20, 70 of which are in the top 10, across campus-wide. And the Kelley School of Business is one of only 5 business schools in the world where every single major that's offered at the undergraduate and graduate level is ranked in the top 20. So it's a powerful school, and it truly is a research-based school in and of itself. In entrepreneurship, as Jeff was kind enough to read, we are proud that we've achieved some top rankings in U.S. News & World Report at both the undergraduate and graduate level, and we're very proud, right here with USASBE, that our MBA and our PhD have been honored with the Model Program Award. Phenomenal awards, and I know we've got some great schools competing today and tomorrow for those awards. Fantastic. Those awards are just absolutely awesome. So we're very proud that we hold that at our school. But here's what I wanted to show you. We created a vision, and I thought I'd just start by showing you this because many of you, I think, are involved in your campuses in different ways in the way you're trying to inculcate entrepreneurship across the campus. Well, we are doing it too at a major institution like Indiana. And our vision is to create the entrepreneurship campus of the 21st century. So in brief, just to give you an idea, this is the Kelley School of Business, where we have our home office for the Johnson Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And this is where it emanates from. But I had a belief that if we were going to take it cross campus, we couldn't just do it virtually. Because at a major institution like that, we can't tell the music school or we can't tell the microbiologists, if you want to know about entrepreneurship, come on over to the Kelley School. So we decided that we were going to take satellite offices of our center and actually put them into the schools. And we have been very successful doing that. So at our law school, we created an entrepreneurship law clinic, which is housed inside the law school. And I was really proud because when we established this about 4 years ago, we said we're going to get this thing running. We used a little seed money to get it up and going, and then we said we're going to try to find some donors. And I was really proud that up until 30 days ago, we had found a donor that brought in $5 million to actually name the clinic. It's now the Elmore Entrepreneurship Law Clinic. And that was the largest single gift ever brought into the law school in the history of Indiana University. So I was really proud to think that entrepreneurship had a big part in that we brought them the largest gift. 30 days ago, the law school was just named for $30 million, so it kind of dwarfed it. But at least up till 30 days ago, we had that mark. This is our multidisciplinary science building that was just completed a year ago. This is all laboratories. All multidisciplinary labs were built in here for our chemistry, our biology, microbiology, physics, all these different areas. There's only one area that's not a lab, and that's a suite of offices called the Johnson Center for Entrepreneurship and Science Innovations that we established in there. This is our Jacobs School of Music. We have established in the Jacobs School of Music the Johnson Center for Entrepreneurship and Cultural Leadership, which our offices will be. They're just building a $66 million music instruction building, and we will have new offices in that. In Indianapolis, where our med school is located, we have an emerging technology center. That's it on the canal, and we established an office in there for the Johnson Center for Entrepreneurship and Medical Science Innovations. And just recently, as of late November, we broke ground for the new incubator that's going to be in Bloomington, which is going to specialize in IT and informatics, and we too will have space in there, as well as a student accelerator for our students. So I want to show you that because on our campus, as large as we are, and as research-oriented as we are, we have taken entrepreneurship very seriously, and we have decided that we are going to physically impact the campus and all the schools. And I've had questions from people saying, yeah, but how'd you do that? I mean, we're all waiting for some huge Kauffman campus grant to have that happen. My advice to all of you is, and through this talk will be, you don't wait. You go and do it. I did all of this with no money. I went to see every dean and talk to them. I explained to them the importance of what we could do, the potential, the possibility, what could come out of this if I could gain their commitment. And I did. And each and every dean bought into it. And it's amazing when you do that. If you share your passion. Last night, what did Amelia talk to us about? I know it was a great story, but I grabbed this thing and I jotted down some notes. Where's Giles? Giles Hertz saw me jotting some notes down here. Here's some things I picked up from Amelia. Passion, commitment. She talked about survival, no secret formula, different perspective. I jotted all this down and I thought, that's us. That's us. We better have passion. We better have commitment. We better have different perspectives. Well, take it to the different deans. Take it across the campus. You might shock yourself to find what you can do. So the message I'm trying to deliver to you today in all of this will be, you don't wait, you act. The same thing we hear from entrepreneurs. We hear the economy's bad. I'll talk about that in a moment. Fine. I'm going to show you history about this economy, and why this is really the prime time for entrepreneurship, not the bad time. But I'll share that with you. But I want to set the stage for Indiana to show you that I wasn't just up here preaching at you and telling you what to do. I've gone out to do it myself. So anything I'm telling you, I've lived it and I've done it, and I understand how it can be done. And I think it's important you understand that as well. So looking back for me over the last 30 years, it's been quite a journey. For me and for this field. For the field of entrepreneurship, it has been one whale of a journey. For those of us, and there are some phenomenal people in this audience I'm going to mention in a moment, that do remember. They remember the early days. Entrepreneurship education, as we all know, has achieved tremendous, remarkable growth and respect. For our young faculty, I'm not sure they appreciate that. I think sometimes young faculty think, well, it was always this way. Well, if we go back 30 years ago, no, it wasn't. It wasn't even a respected field. You couldn't even find it in half the schools, or hardly any schools. It's been a remarkable journey for this field. 30 years ago, there were only, to my count, 6 schools that were doing anything in official entrepreneurship programs. Official. There might have been some doing informal, but 6 schools were doing anything 30 years ago in this field. And even then, it was sought as a side center, something away from the academic community. By God, they didn't want to be tainted with it, so they shoved it to the side. Today, as you know, in any one semester, you can find 2,200 courses being taught at 3,000 schools across the globe. There are 450 endowed positions at Jerry Katz's last count. And Jerry, you might even, if Jerry's here, he might even have some of the new counts up and might even be higher. 44 refereed academic journals within the field, both nationally and internationally. There's over 400 fully funded, established e-centers. Probably 1,000 centers, but we know that 400 are fully established. So I put on the screen there, e-education is now a force. Whether academia liked it or not, this became a force. And I've often told a lot of students that what's really amazing is, for those of us that remember back 30 years ago, this was a grassroots effort. Entrepreneurship did not emanate from the hallowed halls of academia from us. It really emanated from students who began to clamor for this kind of education. So it's really remarkable, and we should credit those students 30, 35 years ago for clamoring for this, because that's really what gave it its emphasis and its impetus. So here we are today. The 80s, for those who remember back, is what I call the dramatic realization of entrepreneurship. Oh, we can argue back that it was really back in the 70s that a few schools were doing some things, like University of Southern California and Babson. Sure, I understand that. And even Harvard had its course and stuff. But really, it was the 80s where it really began to have a realization of the power. And part of that was because of the economy of the time. Do not forget that in 1980, we were in the most disastrous period of our economy. The worst unemployment in the history of this nation and the highest inflation rate ever. It dwarfs what's going on today. And entrepreneurship grew out of this. In 1985, Business Week ran a headline, "Small is Beautiful." I used to actually have a picture of the cover, but it got so, tattered and stuff, I just finally took it off. But I love the headline. I mean, if you look at my stature, I take this everywhere I go. I mean, I love it. But the truth is, Business Week ran this headline because 5 years into the decade, and by 85 we were, as an economy, booming again, Business Week wanted to find out why. And they went to the institutions to find out. And the institutions had no answers. And what they found out was the economy had recovered because of each and every entrepreneur that began to create a business and a job and a second job and a third job, and pretty soon the momentum built. And exponentially, the entrepreneurial sector brought us back. And so Business Week, if you will, the magazine for big firms, ran that on their cover. Just something to know, because I think it's really going to give great advice for us today. Why did I show you that? Because I believe we saw a mindset shift. My generation were coming out of college back in the 70s looking for the institutions to take care of us. We were really a society that was institutional laden. We truly believed that big was beautiful, that we had to plug in and be taken care of. And when it all fell apart and the entrepreneurial sector brought us back, well, all of a sudden we switched to what I call more individual reliance. We started to realize the power that was in the hands of people's own creativity and the power of their ideas, as Amelia told us last night. Amazing power, way beyond classrooms or books or research. Amazing power in ideas. I've talked many times about some examples in the 80s, from the 70s and 80s, when we all know the story of Fred Smith, right, with Federal Express. All right, he gets the F in the course. He's told the idea can't work, this idea of delivering packages. Why? Because he was told that there was an institution out there called the United States Post Office that had jets and planes and vans and hubs in every city, and they couldn't deliver packages overnight. So how could an individual idea trump that? Amazingly, he did, because he believed in it. His commitment was such that he drove it, and he created a business and an industry, and in many ways, an overnight economy. Oh, and by the way, it didn't take many years after that, the United States Post Office could deliver packages overnight. Interesting. So the individual didn't follow the institution. The institution followed the individual. Or how about the story of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak with Apple Computer? Been told many times. But amazingly, Hewlett-Packard had the opportunity to take the blueprints and run with that. And they turned it down. They thought it was a stupid idea. And yet now, nobody's laughing at Apple Computer. And yet today, Hewlett-Packard does sell, right, microcomputers. Once again, the institutions followed the individuals. The individuals didn't follow the institution. Lesson learned in the 1980s that I am telling you today, and mark my words, will be the lesson we're going to take from this down economy. Why is the economy down? Who let us down? You've read all the reports. I printed this off from Newsweek. They ran a little map, which I thought was really cute. I'm at the gym one morning working out, and I'm reading this, and I thought, I got to make a copy of this. Reversal of fortunes for Merrill Lynch, Bear Stearns, Citigroup, Lehman Brothers, AIG, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of New York, Morgan Stanley. Whoa, wow. Who had the reversal of fortunes? The institutions. I haven't picked up one magazine yet that talked to me about the entrepreneurial failures. It's about the failure of our institutions. Oh, we're here again, folks. We're back again. We better learn our lessons, because now is the time that entrepreneurship is going to be powerful again. Let me take you back for just a second, and here's why. One of my fears is, and I'm a zealot about this, is I don't want our young generation to forget the older generation in entrepreneurship. Maybe that's because I'm getting old and I don't want to be forgotten, but I certainly know who the giants were in this field. I know the shoulders that my generation of professors have had to stand on to do the things that I showed you of where we've come from. You see, the early days, it was all about credibility. And that isn't easy, as we all know, in academia. Credibility is not an easy game. It's a tough game. And it was really tough back then. And so when I look at some of the early pioneers, and forgive me if I've left someone off, but these are the people that I've interacted with through USASBE, through the Academy, people that were so good to me and who I stood on their shoulders. Arnie Cooper of Purdue, Carl Vesper at Washington, the late Max Wortman at Iowa State, the late Justin Longnecker, who the fellows are now named after, and rightly so, Don Sexton at Ohio State University, Dale Meyer at Colorado, the late Jeff Timmons at Babson, Howard Stevenson at Harvard, Bob Brockhouse at St. Louis University, Harold Welsh at DePaul University, Jerry Hills at University of Illinois Chicago, and Fred Kiesner at Loyola Marymount. Those are giants. And here's what I want to share with you as I've been getting around the conference last night and this morning. I just want to let you know who's here. I ran into Arnie Cooper on the elevator this morning. I almost fainted to see Arnie. It was awesome. I mean, he is a giant. And to think that he was here was just phenomenal to me. Last night I ran into Carl Vesper. I was just like, my God, Carl, you're here. I gave him a big hug. I think he thought I was crazy. But it was just amazing to see him. He's here. We have Arnie and Carl here. This is phenomenal. We've got Dale Meyer. I think I saw Dale walk in this morning. Dale Meyer's here. Some of these giants are here, folks, at this conference. Harold Welsh is here. Jerry Hills is here. Fred Kiesner is here. I want you to understand that some of the giants of the field who fought the early battles, who got us where we are today, are here. They weren't asked to be here, but they're here. Their love, their commitment is still with us. Boy, I hope each and every one of you take the opportunity to find them, shake their hand, and even spend just a moment with them. Because I'm telling you, it's really important that you understand who these giants are and why they're still part of us. Incredible. God bless them all. I know I would not be here, and I know many of us would not be here without the work that they did in research, in teaching, and outreach. Phenomenal. They drove the field to where it is today, and I'm proud of all of them. Entrepreneurship today, it's the most potent economic force the world has ever seen. I put that in one of my books, and I believe it. I don't think anything has changed the world the way entrepreneurship has. Think about it. Go back 30, 40 years ago. Look at the world economies and look at them today. Do you think politicians changed the world? I don't think so. But entrepreneurship has. Because entrepreneurship moves through people, with people, and for people. It's a powerful force like we've never seen before. So, for us, I say today, we in USASBE must take up the leadership role in advancing entrepreneurship, just like the theme of the conference. I believe that. But I want to personalize this. I don't want this, as I said earlier, to be about hearing someone else's story. Oh, I've given you some of mine, so you know I've lived it. But that's not what it's about. This is about us, about you. Because if you don't take up the leadership role, it's not going to happen. We will not advance. We will be at a stalemate. And then, as you know, if you're not advancing, you're falling back. And I don't want that to happen, and I know some of our great pioneers would never want that to happen. Not when they committed their lives to this field. So this is really serious role that we take up. I believe that we should really be involved in advancing the theory, the process, and the practice. And that's why I came up with that, as I said when I started the talk. Because while we can talk about advancing entrepreneurship, to me, that title was good, but seems so generic. Advancing entrepreneurship. Well, sounds good. And you would say, how? Well, to me, I think with us, in the academic world, we can advance it through our theory, through our process, through our practice. And that's what I want to share with you. Because to me, that becomes, as you see on the screen, our challenge. Not somebody else's challenge, not Amelia's and all the great entrepreneurs out there. No, no, this is our challenge. And we better take it seriously, because that's how we're going to drive the field. So, let's look at each one, advancing the theory of entrepreneurship. Well, as educators and scholars, we must be devoted to entrepreneurship research. It's got to be important. Why? I put it on the screen. We got to be part of the creation of it, the respect for it, and as you see, I said there, the application with it. We have to be the ones, I believe, there's many of us in here that will be researchers that actually create it and drive it. We have to respect our research and those of others in our field, and we have to understand how we apply that research. We can't become part of the practitioner game that likes to make fun of the research world. Oh, we've all heard it, we all make jokes. But we also have to be able to stand up and say, yes, but it's the research that's driving the field, and the field is expanding, which is going to make everything better for our students, for our economy. But we have to take that role seriously, because if we don't, no one will. So I believe each and every one of us has a part in this. As I say, whether we create it, whether we respect it, or we understand the application of it. I take this around a lot lately because I'm getting so fed up with the argument about journals and this idea of the ranking list, and we've got a ranking list at Indiana University. And so I say to people, please understand, if you look at the Journal Citation Report impact factor of the 72 business journals that are out there, JBB ranks number 11, ET&P ranks number 13, International Journal of Small Business number 24, Small Business Economics number 27, of the top 72 business journals. So you're going to stand there and tell me they're not quality journals? Who's telling us this? Who are the people that are telling us that our research really isn't good? Those journals are really not journals that should be respected. At Indiana University, we accept the Journal of Business Venturing and Entrepreneurship Theory and Practice on our A list, because we respect and understand the research that's being done in there. So to me, when schools want to play the little game like that, let's play the game with the real numbers. Let's start talking about the journals that we're ahead of that you have on your list. Let's begin to really understand the facts before we get too critical. So I always take this slide and show it. See, we must publish our research in the entrepreneurship journals as well as, certainly, the other powerful journals. No question about it. We have to disseminate our research not just in JBV and ET&P and the other journals. We must be disseminating into AMJ, SMJ, AMR. I understand that. But we've got to do that. And it's happening. It's happening all over, and it's phenomenal, but we got to keep it up. We must serve on the editorial boards of journals in order to provide the proper perspective. I get tired when I hear some faculty say, I don't want to be on any review boards. I'm tired of reviewing papers. Well, if we don't review the research, who's going to review it? If we're the ones that understand the field, then we better be contributing that way to the research of our fellow colleagues. Otherwise, you're going to leave it to others outside of our field to make decisions. And I don't think that's appropriate, nor do I think that's wise. So I said here, we must not let other disciplines be the judge and jury of our research in the entrepreneurship journals. I certainly would never have the gall to stand in front of the finance department and tell them what I like or don't like about their research. To me, that's their field, and I will respect their judgments about it. But by God, when you come to my department, you'll respect my colleagues' decisions on our entrepreneurship research. I think that's extremely important that we keep gaining that respect. I think that's a powerful move for us in the theory. You see, only through our collective efforts will the theory of entrepreneurship advance. We can't sit back and say, well, it'll just advance with some people. No, no, no. It's a collective effort. It's going to be those that are certainly the researchers and authors, right, that create it, but it's going to be all of us then that respect it and work it and understand its application. We're all part of this, but it's going to take our collective effort to continue it. We are doing some amazing things. Today, one of the great scholars of our field, Dr. Dwayne Ireland from Texas A&M University, is hosting, right after this, a USASBE Pillar session. He's going to be talking to you about publishing entrepreneurship research. From a gatekeeper perspective, he is the editor of the Academy Management Journal. He is a phenomenal scholar. Without question, one of the best we've ever had. No one would argue that. And you have an opportunity here at USASBE to go and learn and listen from him. Phenomenal opportunity. Phenomenal. But Dwayne was kind enough to come because I think he understands his commitment to entrepreneurship is phenomenal, and he understands the value of this, of driving our theory forward. Very, very powerful. I don't know if Ron Mitchell's here yet, but I know Dr. Ron Mitchell, Texas Tech, is driving at the Academy of Management a whole research initiative, which again is a phenomenal move. One person who had the courage to do it, Ron. Outstanding. I think Ron's going to be here to make a presentation on some stuff. How about the process? So that's the theory. What about advancing the process? Well, we're all involved in that. Because when you think about it, the process begins with how we teach it. The process of entrepreneurship is something that we have looked at, right, over the years to try to develop methods in our classrooms. And as I said earlier, differentially done. We're all different. But amazing, that's how the process is really being driven, how it's expanded. So to me, we are the ones that can advance it. We have debunked the mythology successfully over the last 30 years. Way back when Peter Drucker said this, which I really loved in 1985, Drucker said, most of what you hear about entrepreneurship, says at that time America's leading management thinker, is all wrong. It's not magic, it's not mysterious, it has nothing to do with your genes. It's a discipline. And like any discipline, it can be learned. That was 1985 from Peter Drucker. Well, we finally took his words, and I believe as educators, we proved he was right. We proved it was a discipline. We proved there were areas that we could teach and our students could learn. And it advances all the time. But it's pretty amazing what we've been able to do, and I always think, as I look out there, what more we can do in this changing world. A definition of entrepreneurship today, if you look at it, here's one that I put out there, which I think is fabulous, of course. It says it's a dynamic process of vision, change, and creation. It requires an application of energy and passion towards the creation and implementation of a new idea or creative solution. It's the vision to recognize opportunity where others see chaos, contradiction, and confusion. The reason I like that definition is that's a mindset. That goes beyond just the creation of a business. That goes on the creation of your mind and how you think, how you feel, and how you act. And so if you think of the process of entrepreneurship as just starting a business, and I don't think many of you do anymore, we did in the early days, I think we've advanced to understand this process is a powerful mindset that can truly change people. So, if we're going to advance the process, please understand that in your hands, you have the power to change young people. No other discipline in academia can say that. But our discipline has that power because it's truly a mindset that we get into our students. And what they can do with it is amazing. And the way we teach it is being more and more challenged and more ingenious. But this is really what it's all about, not just the business. So what's the results? Academic departments are developing in entrepreneurship. At Indiana University, one of the most hallowed departments for 57 years was the Department of Management. Last spring, the name was changed to the Department of Management and Entrepreneurship, showing respect for the field. Very powerful in what's happening. Young faculty are being granted tenure for their research and teaching in entrepreneurship. Years ago, we would say, oh, no, you got to do it in another field if you want your tenure. Not anymore. No, it's not happening that way. No, they're being granted tenure for their research and teaching specifically in entrepreneurship. This is the outcome of the process. It's getting very powerful. Deans are beginning to support entrepreneurship. Hard to believe, but yes, it's true. They are. And we know that new entrepreneurship programs are taking root across campuses. This idea, as I showed earlier, cross-campus stuff. It's happening. The results are remarkable. Unique pedagogy has really developed over these last 20 years or so. Amazing pedagogy. If you don't believe me, look at USASBE's Pedagogy Award winners and what they did and what they will continue to do with the awards that we will see and the presentations that will continue here today at this conference and at conferences to come. This is really our domain, and we can do some amazing things with it. We must continue. This pedagogy is ours. Another point on this process is, as it expands through campuses, and I've been sort of preaching this around, I want you to be careful not to lose the true meaning of entrepreneurship. And it worries me. As we see it being, and by the way, that's why I showed you what we were doing at Indiana at the beginning. I told you there was a reason. I showed you so you wouldn't think, oh, he's just corked up in the business school and doesn't want to get across the campus. No, I showed you what we're doing, but as you do go across your campus, I would like you to be very careful. There seems to be, in many cases, a real use and abuse of the term for purposes other than enhancing the field. And that bothers me. And I think it would bother the great giants that are here with us today. That's not what it was meant to do. So I said, as entrepreneurship educators in the process of this whole field, we must be the guardians of the true meaning. You see, it's got to emanate from us. A field can't just be out there floundering. It has to emanate from a power source, or it will dissipate. We had the Carnegie Foundation come to our university last spring, doing a study on liberal arts and its impact or intertwining with business. And they didn't tell us at the beginning until they came on campus, they were really interested in this entrepreneurship stuff that's going on. So they called me in to talk to me. And they began to ask a lot of questions. And they were giving me examples of different schools, and we had a nice discussion. At one point I sat back and I said, I'm going to give you my personal belief. I believe in all this cross-campus stuff that we're doing. But it has to emanate here from what we do in entrepreneurship. And they said, why? Why can't it be over in the provost office? Why can't it emanate out of the president's office? It can emanate anywhere. And I looked at the guy and I said, you seem like you're an educated person. I said, I'm really surprised at you. And he goes, why? And I said, would you tell me that biochemistry could emanate from the president's office if we were doing a biochemistry program across the campus? And he goes, well, no. I said, would it emanate from the biochemistry area? And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, then why are we different? It's got to emanate from a power source. And if it doesn't, it will just go away. Even if you're awarded the biggest grant in the world, I don't care what you've got, that money will go away And if there's no power source behind it of where this field is going to emanate from, it will dissipate on your campus. No, no, no. We better be the guardians, and we better be the ones that are the champions. Back to Amelia's words, we better have the passion. We better have the commitment. Or another one that she used last night, which I like, she said she heard her inner voice getting louder. Remember that? Turn up the volume? My prayer for you is you hear the volume getting turned up on your campuses, and you release your passion. The process of entrepreneurship must emanate and advance through us, not through others. Today, Dr. Michael Morris from Oklahoma State University will have a USASBE Pillar session talking about, right after this, talking about entrepreneurship outreach in universities. A phenomenal scholar and program builder. Dr. Morris is one you might want to hear because he understands the power of what he's been able to do at a number of universities, and he can share with you. Again, a great opportunity for all of us at USASBE to be part of the process of entrepreneurship. And finally, advancing the practice. You could say, well, no, that was really for Amelia. I would agree. But to a certain extent, we better realize that it's really going to be through our mission of advancing the theory and the process that the practice will be affected. Without us moving the theory and the process, I assure you, the practice will not advance. Oh, it'll still happen. Entrepreneurship always happens. But will it advance? Remember the theme of the conference. Will it advance? It can advance through us and through the work that we do. I'm a firm believer of that because I've seen it advance over the last 28 years. I said entrepreneurship educators should always expose students today, right, to those entrepreneurs who I said who have paid the price, faced the challenges, and endured the failures. No question about it. Please don't misunderstand me. I want us to bring the entrepreneurs to the classroom or our students to the entrepreneurs. I'm not against that. Not at all. I think for those who remember Mike Hennessy, I think Mike's here today. Mike, you and John always preach the E's and the A's, the academics and the entrepreneurs. I've always loved that. And they always said that they had the Coleman Foundation, right, Mike? You guys always said, we respect the A's, the academics, but let's make sure the E's are part of it. I agree wholeheartedly. We've got to make sure that our experienced entrepreneurs who have made a difference are telling their stories. Like last night. We heard a phenomenal story from Amelia. Right? From the heart. From a need for her own child. Great story. We've got to see it, and she wanted to make a difference. I thought it was great. I certainly want us to keep doing that. No question about it. Because I think we need to continue to expose our students to the right things. Just remember, from the dot-com era to this investment debacle that we're looking at right now, we got to make sure we learned our lessons. We got to make sure that what we expose our students to is what I call the proper form of entrepreneurship. So in the practice of entrepreneurship, be careful. Almost like the use and abuse across campuses. Just careful of this. The word can be used in a lot of other avenues that I don't think we would appreciate. A lot of people we know call things entrepreneurship or call themselves entrepreneurs when that's not true. That's not really what they are. So we've got to learn and we've got to watch now with this investment debacle. I said on the screen, do not let our students become infatuated with the drive for liquidity, fast cash, and quick exits. Sadly, we did that in the dot-com era. It did. We started to build an investment mentality. Not wise. I said, rather, let's facilitate the search for an enduring enterprise. Let's teach students how they apply their great idea, the light bulb, the great idea, but how do they apply that with the passion and commitment that Amelia talked about? How do they apply that with the mindset that we're trying to inculcate in them? The entrepreneurial mindset is not about the fast cash and the liquidity and the quick exit. The mindset's about delivering something to make a difference and having the passion to do it. That's what we have to make sure that we guard with in the practice, that we expose our students to. Do you want to develop entrepreneurs or opportuneurs? It's up to you. But opportuneurs, we saw that in the dot-com era, they decoupled wealth, as you see here, from contributions. They replaced risk-taking with risk-faking. And I said here, and they exploited external opportunity rather than pursuing their own visions. It was a sad time. So when we crashed in the dot-com era, we were all shocked. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of us weren't. Because we knew that we weren't teaching the bootstraps entrepreneurship. We must make sure in this investment debacle, in this economy, that we hold firm in our classrooms and in our laboratories, we hold firm to what entrepreneurship really is. The real mindset and the real message you want to deliver in the real practice of entrepreneurship. That's what we have to make sure we do. Wall Street versus Main Street? Oh, did we see it ever so much now in the last couple of months. Where do you think the real economy exists? You think it's on Wall Street? I have never believed that in my life. Never. The media makes you believe that. We have to watch our investments tumble all the time. But you really think the economy really clicks with Wall Street? No, I don't think so. I think it clicks on Main Street. Because just think of two lessons. On 9/11, the next day, Wall Street shut down. There was no Wall Street on September 12th. But Main Street didn't shut down in all of our cities and towns and neighborhoods. Interesting. So the economy kept going, didn't it? Wow. Can't believe it didn't shut down with Wall Street. How about now? I read you the list. I read you the list of all the Wall Street institutions. It's not a great economy, but it's still moving, isn't it? Yeah. Go into your towns and in your stores and talk to them. Oh, they're all suffering from lack of sales, but guess what? They're still opening up those doors every day, aren't they? They're still going to, by the way, there's still banks making loans. You see, there are banks that didn't get into the subprime mortgage area. Some of our small banks are still out there doing it. Oh, that's incredible. It's there. The real economy is there if you look for it. And we better make sure that we are the ones, as educators, that are going to continue to support that kind of drive with our students for that kind of economy. I brought my little joke that I've had for years, and I love this from Ziggy. He's watching TV, and the announcer says, "Tonight's Wall Street Week is made possible by a grant from Big Chuck's Gas and Lube." I love that. I just think that's really what it's all about. It just shows you, sure, we've got Wall Street and it's important, but it's really supported in the grassroots by Main Street. And that's really what we want our students to understand. Guard the practice. Make sure they learn the right thing. Enduring enterprises, that's the real entrepreneurs. Let's make sure that's who we expose our students to. Let's make sure that's the ones we're trying to drive to them so they gain that perspective. See, to me, the theory and the process that I talked to you about in entrepreneurship that we can do and we can actually deliver on, it does affect the practice of entrepreneurship. So what we do as educators, please never divorce yourself to say, well, they're the practitioners and I'm over here, so I really don't impact that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because the way you turn out your students, the way you drive the theory and the way you drive the process is exactly the way the practice will be carried out. We hold a great responsibility in our hands, and I urge you to take it on strongly. Why is advancing theory, process, practice so important today? Well, I think I've been making my point. Are we learning our lessons? From the 1980s of the economic crisis to the S&L crisis to the junk bond market collapse to the tech wreck to now the economic crisis of 2008, 2009. Here we are. Welcome to the journey. What's been the one enduring, sustaining factor? Entrepreneurship. One factor has taken us through every single economic downturn, and every time we had a surge in the economy, it was the entrepreneurial sector. I want to read you something that I got the other day. If you'll allow me, this is really interesting. I got this from a VC in Silicon Valley. I've got a West Coast advisory board that I go visit twice a year. And one of my board members works with this VC. I won't mention the name of the firm, not going to do that. But this letter was sent out to a number of his clients. And he said, 2009 will be an interesting year. Will it be challenging? Of course. Will it present serious opportunity to those who want to grab it? Of course. I have seen otherwise sane CEOs running around in panic, cutting costs in almost every irrational fashion. Not that there's anything wrong with cost cutting in tough times. It must be done. But in the hysteria that this economy is now creating, will it be destructive to the creativity that our country is really known for? You might remember that the early 2000s were lean years when, for example, the IT industry had to buckle down and lay low after the tech wreck. But I found that the startups from that era worked hard, spent money, albeit wisely, and we saw the results by 2004. Excellent technologies with transformational capabilities came out of that. A level of innovation that had not happened in the storage or server industry for decades emerged from those 4 years. And he goes on to list, and I won't read you the list of all the different innovations, but it is mind-boggling. And at the end, he says, I happen to believe that at times like these, new leaders are created. In fact, it is always the legacy products whose time has come and gone that suffer through the economies like today. New, innovative products always find a way to the market. Entrepreneurs always know how to drive it, and I believe that entrepreneurs with exceptional value propositions will do quite well in the next few years, which is why it is important to keep those companies and those entrepreneurs focused on the right thing, continuing to innovate. That's from a VC out in Silicon Valley, and I thought that was very telling of the lesson we better be learning. Why did he write that? Because I think he's got insight to what we've learned over the years and how really the economy has always surged back from the entrepreneurial spirit and the innovative drive of people. And our students can be those. We can be training the next generation to turn this economy around. The other reason I think it's important, because I believe universities are at what we call a strategic inflection point. You guys all know this from strategy, right? That's when the old strategic picture is dissolving, right, and giving way to the new, allowing the adaptive and proactive to ascend to new heights. Well, that's where we're at, folks. Universities are also at this crossroads, and they too are looking for ways to change and adapt. And we, as I mentioned earlier in the entrepreneurship field, have a powerful discipline that can reach across the campuses. We can be a unifying factor in the universities. We can be a discipline that reaches out into all kinds of fields and takes innovation and is able to advance it in all kinds of areas. No other discipline can say that. That's how powerful this is. We are at a time when advancing this theory, this process, this practice has never been needed more by either our economic situation or our universities. Terms that describe this new innovation regime, look at them. Dream, invent, create, pioneer, explore, imagine. Come on, we hear this all the time. This is it. 30 years ago, where did you see these words? Disneyland. 30 years ago, you had to go to Disneyland to see these words, right? How many, we used to go to Epcot. Remember the GE building? You'd walk in, imagine, right? The GE building at Epcot down in Orlando. Unbelievable. That's where we had to go. It's 30 years advanced. Every single corporate annual report has some of these words in there. Innovation is the driving factor now in all strategies, and it's the driving factor in economies, even down economies. Answer the challenge. I think it's important for all of us. It is our time. It is our mission. And I mean this sincerely. That's why I said this is about you. You've got to take this to heart, and you've got to internalize this. You've got to believe it's your mission. I've often said this is not a discipline to teach of the faint-hearted. Almost like Amelia was talking about commitment. You know, you're either pregnant or you're not. I've often felt in this area of entrepreneurship, either you're in or you're out. Either you believe in this field and you really want to drive the mindset, or you're out. I don't think we want people that are sort of halfway there with their feet in. If we're going to be the guardians, if we're going to be the ones that are the real troopers that are going to advance the field, we have got to be fully committed. It's got to be our mission. And I'm telling you, it is our time. To move the world, I love this from Socrates, we must first move ourselves. And that's why I wanted this to be about you, and I want you to internalize it. Because if you sit there and say, I'm going to wait for my university to make a move, or my school or college, or my department, you are falling back to the institutional mentality that we do not need. You have to make the difference. You have to stand up and do some things. Does that mean you got to take risks and chances? Yes. Yes, it does. Powerlessness is a state of mind. If you think you're powerless, then you are. If you take me out in the hallway and say, you have no idea how powerless I am at my school, you have no idea, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to look at you and say, you're powerless. I'm going to walk away. Because it's a mindset. You've convinced yourself that the university just beats you down. There's nothing I can do. No, there's a lot you can do. Because it's really a mindset. Just remember, departments and colleges and schools and universities want one thing. They want to be great. If you can show them a path to greatness, they'll follow. Trust me. They'll follow. But you've got to be a leader, and you've got to do it. And you've got to do it with your research and your students, and you've got to affect the practice. I think it's important. Here's one from George Barnard Shaw, which I love. He said, people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. He said, I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the ones who get up, look for the circumstances they want. If they don't find them, they make them. Well, that'd be my adage back to you. If you want something to happen in your department, in your college, in your university, you make it happen. Don't complain about the circumstances. Don't wait for the money. Don't wait for all the approvals. Go make it happen. Just remember, you're standing up in front of students and you're trying to motivate them to go in the world and take a risk. Just remember, they're watching you carefully. You're still a role model. Are you taking a risk? Are you putting forth your best effort? Are you showing that you're willing to put your reputation on the line and make it happen? Never get caught in that where you're security conscious. You're concerned about just the institution, but they should go out and take a risk. I'd be careful with that. I'd be careful as to what your integrity really is. No, you can make things happen and you can make the circumstances. And I'm not saying you can do it all in one leap, but it's amazing. You know the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's what we do. We start taking our steps and we start making it happen. And we can. And we can be powerful. Are we afraid of failure? Is that it? Are we afraid to fail? The difference between the best of us and the rest of us, I've always said, is not determined by how much or how little we fail, but by how much and how fast we learn. And if we're doing it, think of the lessons to our students. Do not fear failure. We're the same ones that stay in the classroom and say, you've got to learn from your failures. How about us? Let's not fear it. Let's take it on. Bring it on and learn. If we fail, we fail. If we try an initiative, doesn't work, fine. Start to break it down. Look what failed. Why? Learn from it. Move on. Exactly what we teach. Let's do. Debbie Fields once said, I've always been a believer the greatest failure is not to try. So if you want to talk to me about failure and you're not willing to try something at your campus, you're a failure. And I don't mean that personally. I just mean if you're not willing to try, that's the greatest failure there is. And you should not be up in front of your students. If you're that afraid of failure, you should not be teaching them entrepreneurship. Now, I'm not saying you're supposed to throw your career to the wind. Please don't misunderstand me. But there are ways that we can be leaders on our campus, and we can put our name on the line to make things happen, and every student will respect you because they know what you're doing, and they know what you're putting up for. It's powerful. You got to try. You can't wait for others. Final thoughts for those who are wondering, when's the little guy going to be done? Because I want to get to a pillar session. Well, here it comes. Here's some final thoughts for you. Kevin Kelly said in an article I read, wealth in the new regime flows directly from innovation, not optimization. That is, wealth is gained not by perfecting the known, but by imperfectly seizing the unknown. I love that. I show that to the students all the time. I say, read that over and keep thinking about that. It's not really about this optimization. It's not about what you know. It's about having the courage to go into the unknown and be able to seize that. And that's what I'm trying to get across to all of us. We may have to take some steps into the unknown on our campuses. We may have to take steps beyond what we're used to doing in our comfort zone. But that's what entrepreneurship is about. We should be the leaders and the examples of doing that. Very powerful, and we can do it. Entrepreneurship, I said, is the new revolution. It's about continual innovation and creativity. It's the future of our world economy. I think I've shared that pretty hard with you today. I also believe this. I believe we're at a point in time when the gap between what can be imagined and what can be accomplished has never been smaller. Whether you want to tell that to your students or I tell it to you. Whether you want to talk about your students getting into business or we want to talk about what we can do on our campuses. The gap between what we can imagine and what we can do has never been smaller. We are at a phenomenal period of time because of technology, because of our knowledge base, because of where our field has come to. We are at a really unique time. The gap is so small. Fear it not. Take it on. That really should be our motto. To achieve anything, you must believe in something and want something with all your might. Did we not hear that last night from Amelia? She wanted something with all her might. Then you must be willing to commit yourself to a course. Exactly what we heard in her story. We have to be the same. We have to have that same passion for our classrooms, for our research, and we have to be willing to commit to a course. We cannot back down. We cannot let others dictate to us. This is truly our mission. Remember this, progress, not perfection. I don't want any of you to leave and act like you're supposed to have this perfect program that's going to win the model program next year at USASBE. No. You're going to go out and try to seek perfection in this whole thing, it will fail continuously. But remember the progress. Take the steps. Commit yourself at this conference to one new thing you will do back at your university. One new thing that you'll innovate in 2009. Make that one step. And I'm telling you, you're going to find that when you take that step, you'll be willing to take the next and the next. It's amazing. It's exactly what you tell your students. It's exactly what I want you to do. Progress. Your personal impact on entrepreneurship, and I've showed this in other presentations. Well, here's what I believe. I believe your research and your scholarship and your journals, your books, all the writings you do in your cases, it advances the theory for our next generation. No question. I believe that teaching in your classroom, it advances the process, right, for our next generation in the way we're going to teach it. And I believe your commitment that I'm talking to you about is your career, that will advance the very practice of this field. So to me, we hold in our hands the theory and the process and the practice far more than maybe we ever dreamed. It really is in our hands. I love this statement that I put together about the power of entrepreneurship when it said, perhaps the phenomenon that we're witnessing now has less to do with risk-taking than with the simple observation that people, not institutions, I'm back to that again, create change. In this respect, perhaps our entrepreneurial educators are leading all of university education to a rediscovery of learning as a process limited only by the boundaries of each individual's intelligence, imagination, energy, and daring. That's it. That's the power of entrepreneurship. And we hold it in our hands. And we as educators can make that happen. If you want to advance entrepreneurship, the general theme of the conference, here's what I put down. Using an old quote, I kind of changed it around and said, why don't you expect more from your research than others might think is valuable? Why don't you dare more than others with your teaching, more than others caution you is wise? Why don't you risk more with your career than others warn is safe in academia? And why don't you dream more for your students than others claim is possible? And the reason I like that is because the operative words I put in white are expecting, daring, risking, and dreaming. They are all the operative words in entrepreneurship, and they are the operative words that we can take and use ourselves. We can be the greatest example to our students if we just put this into practice. And we can. There is no future believing this cannot be done. The only future is you making it happen. That's the future. I will leave you with this final quote that I've got called "In Your Hands," because that's how I want to leave you this morning. I want you to understand this is in your hands. Not my hands alone, not the hands of our great pioneers. It's in all of our hands. And it simply says, you are living in one of the rarest moments in history. A time when all around us, the old order of things is crumbling, and a new world society is painfully struggling to take shape. If you shrink from this struggle and the many difficulties it will entail, you will betray the trust which your own position forces upon you. You live in the most privileged nation, and you've been given the opportunity to learn and, yes, to now lead as educators. So you can use this enormous privilege and opportunity to seek purely private pleasure, security, and gain. But history will judge you, and as the years pass, you will ultimately judge yourselves on the extent to which you used your gifts and your talents and your knowledge to enlighten and enrich the lives of the next generation of entrepreneurs. In your hands is the future of entrepreneurship education and also the fulfillment of the best qualities of your own spirit. God bless you all. It's in your hands.